Jamil Frederick Cotman asks, how can blacks play the game of economics as a team when most blacks don't want to participate?
That should be a difficult question to answer. First of all, black folk have to understand what racism and economics is. See, racism is a team sport. The rule is that either you play as a team or you lose. But more importantly, economics. Again, racism is also economics based. It has nothing to do with just getting along with people and being happy. But on the other side, blacks don't have to have every black to participate with them. Get as many as you need as you can get your hands on and start practicing group economics. And because economic empowerment, economic prosperity flows from the group. It doesn't make any difference how well one black does or what in terms of acquiring wealth and money. It's not what one individual has it on, it's what the group owns and controls. See, what makes Jews very powerful in this country and around the world is not what one Jew owns or what one Jew controls, is what they own and control as a group. Black folk have to understand that they must control as much as possible as a group if they're going to play in the game. Now, as you question, there are a lot of blacks who want to play in a race-based, team-based sport as an individual. But if you don't play as a team, you're going to lose by default. That's like my going out on a football team and facing another team that's got 11 members on the team, and I'm up there by myself trying to play against them on a football field, one man against a whole team. You'll never win. You're going to lose. And black folk must understand those two things. What racism is a team sport, and racism is about acquiring economic wealth and power.
The second question comes from Paris Brantley. He asks, do you think it would be advantageous of us as black people to push our own immigration agendas like the Hispanics, only ours would push the immigration of Africans from all over the diaspora?
Well, most certainly, blacks should have been doing that for about the last 500 years. But to do that, they got to go back and address one thing that's critically important. That is this nation's immigration policies that were put in effect back in 1790. The first thing that Congress did when it came into existence, 1 year after they approved the United States Constitution, they set up a ranking order of acceptability called a National Immigration and Nationalization Policy that defined how people are going to immigrate and migrate into this country. Europeans had a wide open gate. They can come in as Europeans, white Europeans, in any quantity and number anytime they wanted to, in and out. But the immigration color coding went starting with white, yellow, brown, black, from the highest to the lowest. The whiter you were at the top, open door integration. As you went down, it began to close up. You got down to the bottom, which was blacks on the bottom. It was totally closed. You could not come into here in this country as a black person unless you came in as a slave. That's why that immigration policy stayed in effect up until about 1965. They're still using it, but they are tricking and bamboozling blacks right now in the present immigration policy. That's why you can't get Haitians into the country. Now, what the new policy says is that, yeah, we shut black folk out of the immigration policy and kept them as a minority because we needed to use them. Minority has no power. A minority has no wealth and no competitiveness in a society. And they kept black folks immigration even from 1920s all the way up to the 1960s at less than 1/2 of 1%. But in 1960, with the new immigration policy, what they did, they said, well, we'll let immigrants come in now. We'll change the policy now. Instead of totally shutting black folk out, what we have based the policy on is that you can come into America now based on how many relatives or family members you have into the country. And we use a percentage of that. Now, what does that say? That says that black folk who were shut out for all those centuries and never had anybody coming in, their number's almost zero. But you get here, but by the same token, you got Hispanics, to answer your question, running in here in 5,000 to 6,000 per night. That's why in 1860 you only had 4,000 Hispanics in the United States, but you had almost 5 million black folk in the United States. By 1900s, you had 100,000 Hispanics in the United States, but you had 12 million black folk. But black folk were frozen because their population comes only from by birth, how many babies they can have. But Hispanics went from 100,000 in 1900 up to the present time in 2016. They went all the way up to now to almost 55 million Hispanics. That means that they had, where black folks' population based on immigration, only immigration and birth, natural birth, went up over 300%. But Hispanics coming across the borders, their immigration numbers went up over 55,000%. And that's why now they displaced black folk. They are now the majority minority, and black folk are kicked out of being second-class citizens. Blacks are now third-class citizens. Black folk in a world of trouble. they got to go back and check those immigration laws and demand this country change those immigration laws that they put in effect initially in 1790, and they modified them with a flip back, double back, under the table deal where black folk are still kept as a permanent minority in society, where the majority will win and rule and the minority will lose and suffer. Blacks are the only permanent minority losers in the country.